I, who am the beauty of the green earth, and the white moon among the stars, and the mystery of the waters, I call upon your soul to arise and come unto me. For I am the soul of nature that gives life to the universe.
Wiccans are pagans. Pagans are not necessarily Wiccans. Pagans, in general, believe in many things. They believe in cycles of life, the cycles of the moon, the cycles of the sun, birth, death, and renewal. There's an acceptance of different people as with regards to gender, sexual orientation. Wicca deals with two forces, which we refer to as a god and a goddess, and also forces which we refer to as the elements. Now, the reason I don't want to show my face is because of certain people out there who, because of misunderstandings about my beliefs, are so opposed to it that in certain cases I've heard of reports where actually people who practice what I practice have gotten physically hurt by these people. I sort of did my own little celebrations in quiet when I was around no one else. Most of the time it was a non-verbal prayer to a full moon, things like that. Did things like that for many, many years. And about 3 years ago, I discovered that people who do that are referred to as witches, Wiccans.
About a few generations back, actually, there were Wiccans, or rather witches, in my family on my grandmother's side. So it's always been kind of something that it's been there. People just don't talk about it. I was actually raised in a Roman Catholic home, but I never did agree with the Christ thing. So someone actually mentioned the idea of Wicca to me, and I was like, at first I was actually really freaked out. I thought that was a bad thing, like the rest of the world. About 10 years ago, I started kind of exploring it, and I walked around for a few years actually saying I was agnostic or atheist, just because it was easier to say that, because there was less questioning, less everything. And maybe about 5 years ago, I came out of the Broom Closet as such.
Certainly there are practicing Wiccans in town who've been so for decades, but most of the Wiccans in town have really only come to it in the last 5 years or so. So it's a new thing in St. John's, whereas it's much more established in Toronto or New York or London or somewhere. We have a very long-standing tradition that says even if you're not my denomination, you are nonetheless Christian, and I might not want my son to marry your daughter, but nonetheless, we all worship the same God.
I have seen people turn their opinion of whether they like you or not in a snap of a finger, just because they simply found out that I myself practice Wicca. I was talking to one girl for about 3 hours. A Wiccan friend of mine passed by. She saw the pentagram on his neck, and she said that he was a witch. I said, yes, I refer to myself as a witch. Immediately, without saying anything else, she turned and she walked away.
There are, I think, 5 major Christian denominations in the province, but very small representation of other non-Christian religions. So when somebody comes, quote unquote, out of the broom closet and says they're a witch, not only are they saying, I belong to a different religion than you do, but they are saying, and that religion is not Christian at all, and that can be very threatening.
And the whole concept of Satan, I remind people, is kind of a Christian concept. And we don't acknowledge Satan because we don't acknowledge Christ, I suppose. We can't worship the devil if we don't worship God.
Newfoundland has a long history of the church having a major power in the say of what goes on. And it's led to stereotypes and misconceptions of a whole bunch of different faiths.
Rejoices. For, behold, all acts of love and pleasure are my rituals. Let there be beauty and strength,
Spells
power and compassion.
in other religions have a different name. They're called prayers. Same thing. Only we use sometimes physical elements like herbs and things like that to sort of bring more focus and more visualization into it so we can send off that prayer for what we need or what we give praise for.
Anybody who believes that a candle or a wand or a crystal has more power in it than them is on the wrong track. They're basically tools used to focus or to channel.
For behold, I have been with you from the beginning, and I am that which is attained.
What a witch is doing when she does a spell is she's focusing her own will. So she will concentrate on the desired result, and through the power of her concentration bring it about, which is not something I think a Christian would say, because even though quite frequently Christians do bargain with God, I promise to go to church if you let me pass my test, or, you know, make my grandmother well, or something like that. Nonetheless, officially, what Christians do is they simply offer praise, and God does what He wants, whereas witches feel they have more influence over their own fate, perhaps.
People generally fear the unknown, and you know, the word witch just kind of conjures up all these negative implications. It's just, you know, all these wonderful stories and tales and images. The whole burning witches at the stake, you know, I mean, they had to be bad. And I think that was just a very misunderstood time.
The question is certainly open as to whether there were really any witches in, you know, the 16th and 17th centuries in Europe and North America. But once it became clear, I think, that the Catholics weren't going to get rid of the Protestants, and the Protestants weren't going to get rid of the Catholics. They needed a new heresy to turn their energies against. A whole elaborate argument got constructed about witches and black Sabbaths and worshiping Satan and sex with the devil and things like that. So those images are the images that are still in our popular culture. That haggard old woman with the black cat and the spells and Eye of Newt and things like that.
You know, movies like, what is it called, The Craft, wicked movie. I enjoyed it. You know, I thought it was cool, you know, very entertaining. And the show Charmed, love it, great show. But it's not accurate to how it actually works. They throw a few terms in here or there, you know, and whatnot, but it's not an accurate representation. It's not something you just do every once in a while because, okay, I'm going to be Wiccan today because this is what I'm going to do. It's something that it applies to everything. I mean, I hear this a lot and it really bothers me. People say, oh, you know, hell does exist, we're living it here. And I'm like, no, like, because I guess we believe that this is a gift, that our time here is a gift.
And I'm actually going to show my face. I can see it coming within the next year for sure. I'm going to be ready, but right now I'm not.